GED Reasoning Through Language Arts Practice Test with Answers. Question 1. Which of the following is a complete sentence? Running quickly through the park. After the rain stopped and the sun came out. The museum will open at 10 o'clock tomorrow, although the car was old and needed repairs. A complete sentence must have a subject and a verb and express a complete thought. Option C meets these criteria. Question 2. Choose the correct form of the verb. Neither the teacher nor the students prepared for the sudden fire drill. Was, were, be, is. In a neither/nor construction, the verb agrees with the noun closest to it. Students is plural, so were is correct. Question 3. Identify the error in the following sentence. She don't like to swim in cold water. Don't like in swim. She is singular and requires doesn't, does not, instead of don't, do not. Question 4. Which sentence uses punctuation correctly? We visited Paris, France, Rome, Italy, and Madrid, Spain. We visited Paris, France, Rome, Italy, and Madrid, Spain. We visited Paris, France, Rome, Italy, and Madrid, Spain. We visited Paris, France, Rome, Italy, and Madrid, Spain. Semicolons are used to separate items in a list when the items themselves contain commas. Question 5. Which word is a synonym for meticulous? Careless, thorough, fast, angry. Meticulous means showing great attention to detail, very careful and precise. Question 6. Choose the correct pronoun. Every student should bring own laptop to the seminar. Their, his or her, their, its. The subject every student is singular, so it requires a singular possessive pronoun. His or her is grammatically correct. Question 7. Which of the following sentences is a run-on? I wanted to go for a walk, but it started raining. The cake was delicious, I ate 2 pieces. Because I was tired, I went to bed early. She studied hard for the exam and passed with honors. Option B is a comma splice, which is a type of run-on sentence. It needs a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon. Question 8. What is the main purpose of an introductory paragraph in an essay? To provide a detailed analysis of data. To summarize the conclusion. To introduce the topic and state the thesis. To list all the sources used in the paper. An introduction sets the stage and presents the main argument, thesis, of the essay. Question 9. Select the sentence with the correct capitalization. The President of the United States lives in the White House. The President of the United States lives in the White House. The President of the United States lives in the White House. The President of the United States lives in the White House. Proper nouns such as titles of office and specific building names should be capitalized. Question 10. Which sentence uses the apostrophe correctly? The dog's tail wagged happily. The dog's tail wagged happily. The dog's tails wagged happily. The dog's tails wagged happily. The apostrophe before the S indicates possession by a single dog. Question 11. In a story, if the author describes a dark, stormy night, what is likely being established? Conflict, climax, setting, resolution. Descriptions of time and place establish the setting of a story. Question 12. What is the tone of a text? The main event of the story. The author's attitude toward the subject. The physical appearance of the book. The order of events in the narrative. Tone refers to the emotional quality or attitude conveyed by the writer's language. Question 13. Read the sentence. The politician's argument was a facade for his true intentions. What does facade mean? A factual statement. A deceptive outward appearance. A complex mathematical formula. A public speech. A facade is a false or misleading front. Question 14. What is a claim in an argumentative text? A question asked by the reader. The author's primary position or assertion. A list of definitions at the end. The historical background of the topic. A claim is the central point the author is trying to prove. Question 15. Which of the following is an example of an informational text? A poem about a sunset, a science textbook chapter on photosynthesis, a fictional novel about space travel, a play written by Shakespeare. Informational texts are written to inform the reader about a specific topic. Question 16. When a reader makes an inference, they are reading the text out loud, drawing a conclusion based on evidence and reasoning, copying the text word for word, looking up the definition of every word. Inference involves using clues from the text to understand something not explicitly stated. Question 17. What does it mean to summarize a passage? To provide a word-for-word copy, to give a brief statement of the main points, to write a longer version of the text, to critique the author's writing style. Summarizing involves condensing the text into its most important ideas. Question 18. A theme in literature is the name of the main character, the underlying message or universal idea, the sequence of events, the location where the story happens. Theme represents the broader meaning or lesson of the work. Question 19. Identify the figure of speech. The stars danced playfully in the moonlit sky. Simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole. Giving human qualities to non-human things, stars dancing, is personification. Question 20. What is the purpose of transitional words like however or furthermore? To confuse the reader, to connect ideas and show relationships between them, to end the sentence abruptly, to introduce new characters. Transitions help the flow of ideas and clarify the logical connection between sentences. Question 21. Which sentence is the most objective? The painting is absolutely hideous. The painting was created in 1892 using oil on canvas. I think the painting is the best in the gallery. Everyone loves the colors in the painting. Objective statements are based on facts rather than personal feelings or opinions. Question 22. To evaluate an argument means to read it as fast as possible. Determine the validity and strength of the reasoning. Rewrite it in a different language. Agree with everything the author says. Evaluation involves judging the quality and logic of the argument. Question 23. What is redundancy in writing? Using diverse vocabulary, unnecessary repetition of words or ideas, clear and concise communication, a type of poetic rhythm. Redundancy occurs when information is repeated without adding new meaning. Question 24. Which of the following is a primary source? An encyclopedia entry about the Civil War, a diary written by a soldier during the Civil War, a history textbook used in high schools, a documentary made in 2020 about the Civil War. Primary sources are first-hand accounts or documents created during the time under study. Question 25. In an essay, where is the thesis statement usually located? In the middle of the third paragraph, in the introduction, in the bibliography, only in the title. The thesis statement is typically found in the introductory paragraph. Question 26. What is the function of a supporting detail? To introduce a new topic, to provide evidence or explanation for the main idea, to conclude the essay, to provide a counter-argument. Supporting details clarify, prove, or expand on the main point. Question 27. What does the suffix less mean, as in hopeless, full of, without, likely to, study of? The suffix less indicates the absence of something. Question 28. Identify the error. The team of athletes are traveling to the championship. Team, athletes, are, championship. Team is a collective noun acting as a single unit, so the verb should be is. Question 29. Which sentence uses a metaphor? She is as brave as a lion. The world is a stage. The wind howled like a wolf. He ran fast. A metaphor makes a direct comparison without using like or as. Question 30. What is bias in writing? A fair and balanced viewpoint. A prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group. A summary of the main points. The use of complex vocabulary. Bias refers to a lack of neutrality or a slanted perspective. Question 31. Which word is spelled correctly? Accommodate, 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 accommodate. Accommodate has 2 C's and 2 M's. Question 32. What is the meaning of adversity? A state of happiness, difficulties or misfortune, a type of advertisement, the act of moving forward. Adversity refers to hardship or challenges. Question 33. Choose the correct word. I forgot to bring my/mine keys. My, mine, me, I. My is the possessive adjective used before the noun keys. Question 34. Which of the following is a fragment? Because she was late. She was late for the meeting. Is she late? She was late, and she missed the start. A fragment is an incomplete sentence. Because she was late is a dependent clause that cannot stand alone. Question 35. Identify the conjunction in this sentence. I wanted to stay, yet I had to leave. Stay, yet, leave, had. Yet is a coordinating conjunction. Question 36. What does explicit mean in a text? Stated clearly and in detail. Implied but not plainly expressed. Completely false. Very difficult to read. Explicit information is directly stated. Question 37. Which word is an antonym for optimistic? Hopeful, pessimistic, cheerful, positive. Pessimistic is the opposite of optimistic. Question 38. What is the purpose of a colon? To end a question. To introduce a list, quote, or explanation. To separate two unrelated sentences. To show excitement. Colons are used to signal that something is following. Question 39. Which sentence uses there, and there correctly? They're going to their house over there. 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 There, they are, there, possessive, there, location. Question 40. What is context? The size of the font. The circumstances that form the setting for an event or statement. The number of pages in a book. The list of characters. Context provides the background information needed to understand a situation or word. Question 41. What is a counter-argument? The main thesis of the essay. An argument put forward to oppose an idea or theory. A summary of the evidence. A list of sources. A counter-argument addresses the opposing view. Question 42. In writing, coherence refers to the length of the sentences, how well the parts of the text hold together and make sense, the use of difficult words, the physical layout of the page. Coherence ensures that the text is logical and clear. Question 43. Which of the following describes parallel structure? I like hiking, to swim, and biking. I like hiking, swimming, and biking. I like to hike, swimming, and to bike. I like hiking, swim, and biking. Parallel structure means using the same pattern of words for two or more ideas. Question 44. What is propaganda? Information used to promote a particular political cause or point of view. A type of scientific data. A neutral news report. An instructional manual. Propaganda is often biased or misleading information used to influence people. Question 45. Identify the preposition, the cat is under the table. Cat is under table. Under shows the relationship between the cat and the table. Question 46. What is denotation? The emotional association of a word. The literal dictionary definition of a word. The historical origin of a word. The way a word is pronounced. Denotation is the objective definition. Question 47. What is connotation? The literal definition. The idea or feeling that a word invokes in addition to its literal meaning. The length of a word. The rhyme scheme of a poem. Connotation refers to the emotional baggage or nuances of a word. Question 48. Which sentence uses to correctly? I have to books. It is too hot outside. The dog ran to the park. Give the toy to the baby. To means also or excessively. Question 49. What is a topic sentence? The last sentence of an essay. A sentence that expresses the main idea of the paragraph in which it occurs. A sentence that lists all the vocabulary. A sentence that asks a question. A topic sentence summarizes the paragraph. Question 50. What is the purpose of a bibliography? To list the authors and sources used in a research paper. To explain the main plot of a story. To provide an index of terms. To introduce the main character. A bibliography gives credit to the sources used. Question 51. Which is a dependent clause? She went home. Because he was hungry. The sun rose. Birds fly. A dependent clause cannot stand alone as a sentence. Question 52. Correct the sentence, me and him went to the store. He and I went to the store. Him and I went to the store. Me and he went to the store. No correction needed. Subject pronouns should be used, he and I. Question 53. Identify the adverb, the runner moved incredibly fast. Runner, moved, incredibly, fast. Incredibly modifies the adverb fast. Question 54. Which of the following is an example of an oxymoron? Jumbo shrimp, fast car, blue sky, tall tree. An oxymoron combines contradictory terms. Question 55. Which sentence is in the passive voice? The chef prepared the meal. The meal was prepared by the chef. The chef is preparing the meal. The chef will prepare the meal. In passive voice, the subject receives the action. Question 56. What is the plural of child? Childs, children's, children, childs. Children is the irregular plural form. Question 57. Which word is a verb? Happiness, quickly, believe, beautiful. Believe is an action or state of being. Question 58. Identify the conjunction I like coffee, but I prefer tea. Like, but, prefer, coffee. But is a coordinating conjunction. Question 59. What is a syllable? A type of sentence. A unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound. A punctuation mark. The title of a poem. Syllables are the beats in a word. Question 60. Which sentence uses a semicolon correctly? I have a big test tomorrow. I need to study tonight. I have a big test tomorrow. I need to study tonight. I have a big test tomorrow, I need to study tonight. I have a big test tomorrow, I need to study tonight. Semicolons connect two closely related independent clauses. Question 61. What is foreshadowing? Looking back at the past. A hint of what is to come later in the story. The conclusion of the plot. The physical description of a character. Foreshadowing gives readers clues about future events. Question 62. The protagonist is the villain of the story, the main character, the person telling the story, an unimportant character. The protagonist is the central character. Question 63. The antagonist is the main character, the character who opposes the protagonist, the setting of the story, the resolution. The antagonist provides the conflict for the protagonist. Question 64. What is first-person point of view? The story is told by a narrator using I or me. The story is told by an outside observer. The story is told by a narrator who knows everyone's thoughts. The story is told using you. First person uses the narrator's own perspective. Question 65. What is third-person omniscient? The narrator is a character in the story. The narrator knows the thoughts and feelings of all characters. The narrator only knows one character's thoughts. The narrator does not know any character's thoughts. Omniscient means all-knowing. Question 66. A fable usually ends with a cliffhanger, a moral or lesson, a scientific fact, a recipe. Fables are short stories intended to teach a lesson. Question 67. Which of the following is a metaphor? Life is a roller coaster. Life is like a box of chocolates. He is as strong as an ox. The wind hissed. Direct comparison without like or as. Question 68. What does sequence mean in a text? The meaning of the words. The order in which events happen. The length of the paragraphs. The author's biography. Sequence refers to chronological or logical order. Question 69. What is alliteration? Repetition of vowel sounds. Repetition of initial consonant sounds in neighboring words. Exaggerated statements. A comparison using like or as. Example: Peter Piper picked a peck. Question 70. What is an analogy? A short story about a person. A comparison between two things for the purpose of explanation. The opposite of a synonym. A type of punctuation. Analogies explain one thing by comparing it to another. Question 71. What is an anecdote? A long scientific report. A short and amusing or interesting story about a real incident or person. A logical fallacy. A type of dictionary. Anecdotes are often used to illustrate a point. Question 72. What is irony? A state of affairs that seems deliberately contrary to what one expects. A type of metal. A literal description. A synonym for sarcasm. Irony involves a discrepancy between expectation and reality. Question 73. A thesis statement should be a question, a simple fact, debatable and specific, a list of topics. A thesis must take a stand that can be supported by evidence. Question 74. What is audience in writing? The people who help the author write. The group of people for whom the text is intended. The characters in the book. The people who sell the book. Understanding the audience helps determine tone and content. Question 75. What is purpose in writing? The length of the book. The reason why the author is writing: inform, persuade, entertain. The font used in the text. The number of chapters. Every piece of writing has an intended goal. Question 76. What is a cliché? An original idea. A phrase or opinion that is overused and betrays a lack of original thought. A type of punctuation. A French word for book. Clichés are worn-out expressions. Question 77. What does vivid language do? Makes the writing boring. Creates strong, clear images in the reader's mind. Uses only short words. Avoids the use of adjectives. Vivid language is descriptive and evocative. Question 78. What is paraphrasing? Copying exactly. Rewriting someone else's ideas in your own words. Deleting most of the text. Adding your own opinions to the text. Paraphrasing maintains the original meaning but changes the wording. Question 79. Which of the following is a transition word of contrast? Furthermore, in addition, however, similarly. However signals a change or opposition. Question 80. Which of the following signals a conclusion? First, finally. For example, in contrast. Finally suggests the end of a sequence or argument. Question 81. What is a homophone? A word that sounds the same as another but has a different meaning. A word that means the opposite. A type of telephone. A very long word. Examples: there. Question 82. What is a prefix? A word part added to the end of a word. A word part added to the beginning of a word. The main part of the word. A type of punctuation. Example: undash and unhappy. Question 83. What is a suffix? A word part added to the beginning. A word part added to the end. The middle of a word. A synonym for prefix. Example: ness and happiness. Question 84. Which word is a noun? Quickly, running, happiness, under. Happiness is an abstract noun. Question 85. Which sentence is correctly capitalized? I went to New York City. 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 I and city names should be capitalized. Question 86. What is the purpose of a comma? To end a sentence. To indicate a pause or separate items in a list. To show strong emotion. To start a quote. Commas organize parts of a sentence. Question 87. Identify the error. The sun rised at 6 this morning. Sun, rised, at, morning. The past tense of rise is rose. Question 88. Which of the following is an adjective? Quietly, beautiful, run, he. Beautiful describes a noun. Question 89. What is diction? The speed of reading. The choice and use of words and phrases in speech or writing. A type of dictionary. The volume of a voice. Diction affects the style and tone of writing. Question 90. Which word means to grow or develop? Flourish, diminish, stagnate, decrease. Flourish means to grow or thrive. Question 91. What is personification? Describing a person in detail. Giving human characteristics to non-human things. A story about a famous person. Using I in a story. Example: the wind whispered. Question 92. Identify the subject. The fluffy cat slept on the rug. Fluffy, cat, slept, rug. Cat is the noun performing the action. Question 93. Which is a compound sentence? I like apples, and I like oranges. I like apples and oranges. Because I like apples. A compound sentence joins two independent clauses with a conjunction. Question 94. What does ambiguous mean? Very clear. Open to more than one interpretation, unclear. Extremely large. A type of color. Ambiguity creates uncertainty in meaning. Question 95. Which word is a preposition? Between, happy, jump, they. Between shows a relationship in space or time. Question 96. What is syntax? A tax on sins. The arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences. The meaning of a story. The speed of a computer. Syntax is the grammar of sentence structure. Question 97. What is the climax of a story? The beginning. The turning point or most intense moment. The very end. The introduction of characters. The climax is the peak of the action. Question 98. What is resolution in a story? The start of the conflict. The point where the problem is solved. The middle of the story. The author's name. Resolution wraps up the plot. Question 99. What is etymology? The study of insects. The study of the origin of words. The study of rocks. The study of bird behavior. Etymology traces word history. Question 100. Which sentence uses you're correctly? You're going to be late. Is this your jacket? I hope you're having fun. You're my best friend. You're is possessive, you're is you are. Question 101. What is a superlative adjective? Tall, taller, tallest, talls. Tallest is the superlative form. Question 102. What is a comparative adjective? Fast, faster, fastest, fasts. Faster is used for comparison. Question 103. Which of the following is a synonym for abundant? Scarce, plentiful, rare, small. Abundant means existing in large quantities. Question 104. What is plagiarism? The study of plants. Taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as one's own. A type of surgery. Writing a book review. Plagiarism is academic/creative theft. Question 105. What is the purpose of an abstract? A type of modern art. A summary of a longer work. A list of definitions. The title page. Abstracts summarize the key points of a report or paper. Question 106. Which of the following is a proper noun? City, Paris, Paris, country. Paris is the name of a specific city and must be capitalized. Question 107. What is jargon? A type of exercise. Special words or expressions used by a particular profession that are difficult for others to understand. A delicious fruit. A type of rhythm in poetry. Jargon is technical language. Question 108. What is a parenthetical expression? A main idea. A word or phrase inserted as an explanation or afterthought into a passage. The first sentence. A conclusion. Often set off by commas, parentheses, or dashes. Question 109. What is the mood of a piece of writing? The author's age. The atmosphere or emotional setting created for the reader. The length of the book. The order of the chapters. Mood is how the reader feels while reading. Question 110. Which word is an interjection? Wow, running, table, slowly. Interjections express sudden emotion.